Welcome to the preview show.
Cut down size.
Cut down. It's going to be even cut down a little bit further next week. This is my last show before I head off to Melbourne, but it doesn't look too bad of a card at Rosehill Gardens tomorrow. We've certainly dropped off the cliff in terms of stakes races, but I think from a betting perspective, there's a few plays there that I'm looking forward to having.
Yeah, look, it's a good betting program. Rail back in the True. We haven't run there for 4 weeks. I believe they've done some coring of the track. There may have been an issue with some fungus, and they've even had the temerity to water the track this week, Brent.
Weather-wise,
a bit tricky. As you can feel, there's something coming through, and there is a decent chance of some rain through today and tomorrow. Perhaps more likely at Randwick, where they're racing on Monday. But yeah, it's certainly the precipitation is possible. And the track is likely to play away from the rails because it's Rosehill True, and whilst it can be okay there on the fence, and it was a pretty benign track through the carnival,
yep.
I'd suggest the coring and the shiftiness of the surface would lend itself to
maybe a rating or two higher than what it actually is.
Yeah.
And just going back to Rosehill, I'm looking forward to actually going back to Rosehill compared to what we've had at Randwick in recent weeks, because I think you're going to get a surface that is at least consistent to what we expect, rather than Randwick where it's probably played a lot damper than, and a lot harder. As you mentioned, it was a little stickier.
Well, the Rosehill form went deplorably at Randwick, and the only inkling that is the surface. So I'd certainly be cautious about taking any Randwick form in Rosehill. Because those tracks appear to be chalk and cheese at the moment.
Well, the first race, we've got a 1200 metre event for the 3-year-olds. A bit surprised by Reincarnate coming up so short, around the sort of even money mark, and then you've got the likes of sort of Wudang Mountain, Sir Bacchus there in the sort of $6 or $7 mark. What do you see the speed here in this race?
Well, he looks to take it up. He's obviously loving life as a gelding, and he toyed with his rivals at Warwick Farm in his return to the Sydney the other day. I do sort of share your view that the price looks tight for a horse that hasn't had a run on a Saturday and had struggled for so long. But it's a bit of a weird one, this race, because we've got Waller running horses without trials,
yep,
which I haven't seen before. Most of the runners what have we got? 1, 2, 4 are resuming. 6 disappeared out of the race at Randwick the other day, but obviously that's a Randwick thing that could be overlooked. As also with 8, 7 is a gelding resuming as well. So there's just bits and pieces in the race, which is why you've got McDonald on a big winner last start, hard in the market, but he's probably going to have to make all, and it could be interesting for him.
Well, he's going to be in that spot where he's probably going to be leading on the fence. Vulnerable late, I can see here. Well, not vulnerable late, but just vulnerable at the price. I thought Sir Bacchus's form through the summer was quite impressive. I like the way it sort of built with every run. It ran second to Stravigo there at Canterbury, and then was able to win a pretty strong maiden at Canterbury, and then do it again at Randwick, and then its run behind Mahuda at the Gold Coast I thought it had a lot of merit, considering drew 16, had to go back. That's $1 million race at the Gold Coast.
$2 million.
Well, $2 million, sorry now. And then Single Gaze as Group 1 winner. Mahuda's come out of that race. Gypsum Symbol come out of that race. There's been a bit more depth than the Warwick Farm benchmark 67s of Reincarnate.
Look, Sir Bacchus is a bit dangerous here, isn't he? I mean, Reincarnate, I'd suggest perhaps may find himself sitting outside lead with Darksteel. It's got the blinkers back on, is drawn underneath him, and you may find Darksteel driving up underneath Reincarnate, but that would give a stalker an opportunity to have a snipe late. So certainly Sir Bacchus looks the danger to me.
What do you make of In Her Time?
Well, a filly that I think's always flown under the radar. She obviously won her first start at big odds at Canterbury, went into a stakes race, spelled, resumed in a stakes race, went to the Gosford Provincial Championship, and went all right.
Yeah, went good.
But was unwanted and disappeared back out of the race at Randwick. So Look, she's...
Is it a case of setting the bar a little bit too high and then now coming back to a suitable event?
Look, certainly, you know, she's up and running and she's there. This looks the right style of race for her. You know, her style is actually on speed, despite the fact that she's sort of got back off them in a number of her runs. So she could be a player for the early tempo out wide as well.
Rightio, race number 2. We've got a bit of spruiking to do before we get to that.
Well, we've got a free tournament today. It's on the last 4 races in Canberra, Lismore, Colac and Townsville. And the prize is 3 tickets in tomorrow's $25,000 tournament. Look to the homepage for the links. And the winners in today's tournament represent the Punters Show tomorrow. So get on board the free tournament today, a bit of practice. And you can
certainly worth having stumps.
Get a free go in the $25,000 tournament tomorrow.
Well, the 2-year-olds, the 1100 metre race number 2, we see impending 420 equal top pick with Gretna, who returns to Sydney after a couple of runs in Melbourne for Chris Waller, 420. Alliterate 550, Musha Kisser at $6, and that's the meaty end of the market for this event.
Yeah, it's an interesting 2-year-old race here. Obviously a couple of horses out of the kindergarten. Aviator hasn't had a start for a while. Impending is a debutant, a Godolphin debutant, and you'd have to say that when they reserve them for the Saturday race, it's, you know, good opinion.
Exactly.
But the betting well and truly reflects that. Gretna was a late scratching out of the Keith Mackay, is that the championship race?
Yep. I think it might be called something else now, but Percy Sykes.
Well, whatever the race was, a fortnight back. So she instead turns up here in a race at home. Look, it's a hard race to line them up. Musha Kisser didn't appear to do a great deal first up, but then again that was at Randwick. Alliterate went quite well up the inside, but that was at Randwick. I was taken with the win of Sylpheed at Wyong at long odds. I thought she showed a nice turn of foot turning for home, and it's as we've mentioned, we've got the unraced and the shipper from the down south. So and the other horse that's returned quite well after disappointing on debut was Eckstein. She looked to skate around Warwick Farm with a spring in her step. So
interesting, Heather Polland riding here. Usually when Kurt Goldman brings him to town, he utilises a city jockey, and I noticed she's ridden it in the 2 trials, but I would have been looking for a metropolitan class rider.
There would be a good reason for it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's felt that that this filly has an issue, and that
she's obviously got the right hands for it.
Yeah, well, you know.
I'm leaning to the first starter here, Impending. I was quite taken by its barrier trial, and more so the fact that it trialled well behind Louboutin, who raced well,
yesterday,
and then Divine Prophet, who was placed in the Group 1 Champagne Stakes. I know there's probably a little bit of an asterisk next to the Group 1 status of that race, but it's still a stronger event, or as strong event as this.
Well put.
And it looked to be, I thought Impending appeared to be the horse in the trial visually that had the most upside or the most class. But the fact that it's had a 1,050 metre trial, does have the page there with, Nemesis was a very well performed mare. It looks to be a colt that could head towards Brisbane and be a force in maybe a JJ Atkins if he gets to a mile. So if that's the case, I think he's going to have to be very competitive here first up. In a race where I can poke holes in a few of the others' form, drawn a good gate, McDonald back from his little week holiday in New Zealand to ride on Saturday, I think it'll be very hard to beat.
Yeah, certainly it's a horse of great interest in the race, isn't it? Yeah.
Did you mark it of similar price to where it is at the moment?
Yeah, look, I think it's got it's a rock solid contender in this race.
Moving on to the staying event of the day, 2,400 metres, benchmark 78, and we have a few horses here in similar prices. You've got Murphy's Delight at $4, Mr. Steel $4.60, Road and Drive at $4.60, and Doc Holiday at $4.60. So the price assessors of the early markets are scratching their head thinking we're not quite sure which horse is going to be the leading contender here, and personally I'm of that sort of same opinion.
So, all my loving raced at Newcastle yesterday. I don't know whether his intention is to back her up, but that should be noted. And she just missed out on the last there too. The speed will be genuine because Mr. Steele, who looked a slightly strange ride at Orange, but really needs to be,
Can't start, stop. He's got to keep rolling.
Take no prisoners. Road and Drive looks to tag. Lucky Liaison went around the field to lead the other day, and I'm sure the intention would be to get more forward on him to get him into some sort of form. He's dreaming relatively close up, which leaves Doc Holliday midfield, or my loving midfield, Murphy's Delight midfield, Secretary at the back. For me, I was targeting two horses here. Murphy's Delight, who had a break between runs last time, and that looks the lead-up race.
Yep.
And Doc Holliday, who went to 2400 and disappointed, but was perhaps not sufficiently seasoned at Rosehill at a midweek program. Then went to Gosford, got trapped wide. Then went to Hawkesbury, and bloused them in a fast-run race. So Murphy's Delight and Doc Holliday are the two horses of interest to me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Murphy's Delight. The fact that it had that month between runs into the 2200, was closing late. Bowman sticks, draws a good gate. It's a little bit of a weight swing now on those that have been penalised by their ratings, and it's not the most worthy steed. Like, it hasn't won a race since 27th of December 2014, so we're having to go back some time to its last victory, but its record at 1.5 miles does look its best form. 4 starts for a win and 3/3. So I'd expect Chris Waller would have had this race circled on the calendar when the horse was having its month off, saying, beautiful, we can go to Warwick Farm. From that we can springboard, carnival horses go away, and we get an opportunity to win some Saturday prize money. That's my sort of thought on the race without being overly confident.
Price says to take note, there's your favourite.
Yeah. Moving on to race number 4. This is a race that I started scratching my head with, the Highway Handicap. You've got Galaxy Warrior, who has won its past 2 starts in very impressive fashion by big margins at Wellington and Orange in a maiden and a Class 1. Now comes to City with the top weight and a middle range draw against some horses who have formed converging from all different parts of New South Wales. It's a very, very tricky race for me.
So Savasan, Simitro, Sasaby out wide, they look contenders for the lead. I had Exit Ozo, Street Savvy, Nala Metallica and Galaxy Warrior sort of in the next bracket, with Caribbean Concert going back from her wide draw. Miss Tickles may be pressing on from wide gate. It's a motley crew, and the top one has drawn a lot of attention to himself with his rapid improvement in a short career to date. I noticed the market tends to focus on the riders after that. Bowman, Donald not riding Jungle. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
T. Clark riding instead. Could he possibly not make 55 after a week on the?
Maybe he's enjoyed himself too much in New Zealand. What's the rest of the weights that he's got? Impending 57. Yeah, I'd imagine he's probably getting a bit light for him. 55 on the back of a week off.
Yes. Anyway, look, there's relatively few lightly raced horses here, and only one 3-year-old, which is number 2, which has a line through Jungle, I think, and it wasn't a particularly positive line. So last up winner at Wagga. Certainly some claims. Look, I'm with number 1, but I can see why bookies may be keen to take it on at a short price.
Yeah, I thought Jungle would, given its run to Beau Lord 2 starts ago, but it was an every possible sort of hope run. I was just looking to cling on to some sort of city form in this race, but
provincial form. That's
and I couldn't really sort of see much else, so I wasn't really too keen to play in that race. I'm happy to move on.
Fair enough.
On to the Fletch Files. They've been
anyway, you've got the Fletch Files for Hong Kong on
Wednesday. I think he's had 8 plays this week, and 8 races have been winning. So with your $20 Fletcher Files now, you actually get the selections and a staking plan. So he's putting a units of 1 to 10, 10 being the maximum play. There was a maximum play at Adelaide, I think it was 185 into 145 and won by about 6 lengths on Wednesday. So there's a new way to look at the Fletcher files. You can jump on the website and have a look at those. Cost $20 a week, and you'll get tips for the majority of days, probably 3 or 4 days a week, and all over the country, and as Mark mentioned, even into Hong Kong. Race number 5, we have a 1500 metre 3-year-old race here with the 3 fillies dominating the market: Shandana, Falkenberg and Imposing Lass between the sort of 3 and 450 mark. Then you get back out to some of the Colts and Geldings. Mower at $8, Montauk at 10, and Multifacets at 14.
Very interesting 3-year-old race. I'm just wondering what he's recalibrating Falkenberg for, given that she got to the mile. Now he's given her a 1500. Yeah, but she's coming back to the 1500. But I wonder if he has a 2000 race in mind for her.
Well, I think there's a 3-year-old fillies race at the Gold Coast that the Rose is in a fortnight.
Right.
I'd imagine the 1800.
Okay.
That seems to be where these fillies, if they're going to progress onto a Queensland path, I think that's the logical next step.
And do you think he gets to find Kay McAvoy back on board? Because look, that was the another concern to me was, look, she was dazzling at Warwick Farm, but I'd never like to see them change jockeys like that. Keren's ridden at all preparation, and even back into last preparation. So Christian's got a.
And I thought the wide gate posed a little bit of a problem. Like, I know she goes forward, but it was not going to be as easy as slotting into that gun spot where she was.
No, well, look, she's got Mower and an Imposing Lass underneath her. That will certainly may ask the question of her. And then you've got sort of Hembrook and top on my list to settle midfield. But Montauk, sort of handy, and the others look to go back.
Any opinion on who was the sort of leading chance in this race?
Look, I'm a big fan of Imposing Lass, who we haven't got to the bottom of yet, but she's going to have the question asked of her tomorrow. Falkenberg, what you see is what you get there. Shandana, I thought just did what she could do first up from a break the other day. I wasn't jumping into her here, but she could get last look at these. And Montauk is a potential improver, third up from spell, Opie off, away from the inside of Puddingville. So he's certainly a horse to look at, given the price he is.
Yeah, I think all 3 fillies here have to be respected, but they're going to have, in the back of my head, I'm thinking they've got bigger fish to fry, maybe in a run or 2. So I'm finding it hard to back either or either of them at that sort of 3.
They're both screwed down at that price.
And they're all sort of, yeah, I can say yes, you can win Shandana, yes, you can win Falkenberg, yes, you can win Imposing Lass, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were beaten by the other filly, and you're not really getting much of a market there to play around. So I was sort of thinking they're the leading chances, but the market's reflected that, and I couldn't really lean to one or the other.
Certainly, there's no copy. There's no copy in the current prices.
No.
That's why I would suggest you might look at Montauk as a blowout chance.
I thought Shandana could settle a little bit closer from that inside gate. Chris Waller's when his horses draw wide, they tend to be more negative than they probably need to be, because he goes back to find cover. And when they do draw well, you can often see them settling 2 to 3 lengths potentially closer than what they had in their previous start, because he'll take advantage of that good draw, find cover, and then they can save that ground at the start and then have it there at the finish. So I'm expecting her to be probably a little bit further forward on Saturday than where she was a fortnight ago. But still a very tricky race. Moving on to race 6, 1400 metre fillies and mares, and I'm still scratching my head to work out why Sought After is so short at $3. I thought she was the horse that appeared to be the lay of the day, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we'll have to go head to head there. So what would you, if you were putting a market down, where would you start? Where are you looking
I thought Unequivocal, I thought Pare, I thought Tremezina, I thought even Sahara Chul, all looked to be of equal chances to Sought After, in my opinion. I didn't think one mare in this race deserved to be a 30% chance of winning, or even more, compared to the rest of those?
Well, she's just racing in a style that that is not your typical gay. I mean, she's like she's driving at the line. Her first up run, she settled midfield and attacked the line. I'm thinking, is this from a different stable?
Yep.
And then second up, she beat a team of honest provincial mares, but she just monstered them. So I mean, she's targeted here because she's a winning mare with a little bit of scope. The others are undeniable chances, but they've been exposed.
And they're probably coming back from the grand finals. I can concede that, where Pare and Unequivocal would have been set for the provincial championships. But they were the two that I've landed on here because I think there was a big forgive in that race because it was a jog, sprint
so
home,
slowly run,
and nothing further back than 2 or 3 pairs was really given a realistic chance of winning that race. So I'm forgiving of Unequivocal, I'm forgiving of Pare, and I can think that $9.50 and $10, I'd be prepared to back them at those prices to beat a. Yes, I agree that looked impressive, but it was still a fillies and mares class 1 at Newcastle. I'd imagine they'd be doing as much, if not more, to a similar field. So I'm hoping on a bit more of a drying surface, a bit more of an even surface compared to Randwick last start with the opportunity to attack the line. Pare and Unequivocal here for me.
Well, the Sweet Kiss is going to ask the question in this race because she's, since being taken over by the Turner Paletti, she's been labelled pretty urgent in most of her runs. So third up tomorrow, I expect her to run out with a bit of a lead, and perhaps Tremezina will be forced into a chasing position. Tender is a horse that needs to be watched here. She's getting ready, third up with the blinkers back on. And if there's a horse in the middle there that I think you're my go-to sort of horse in the race, it would be Muy Bien, whose city runs are all solid, like her run before Spelling at Warwick Farm, a run in a Saturday race behind Something Secret. And she's had a trial since her last run. So James McDonald, third up, trial. She's your go-to girl in this race. That's what I would suggest you look at.
We've got more
one other thing I wanted to suggest was that Amazon, who hasn't shown much for a long time, actually did something in a trial the other day. So she may be ready to show something.
We've got more to spruik leading into. We got the list here from Dallas, who's on the reserves bench today.
Yes, and now it's disappeared. My must have gone upside down. Here we go. Yes, we've got the new Adelaide service up and running. Was it Aaron
Barbie?
Aaron Barbie.
Started last weekend. It was a good strong set at Morphettville. Just finished on the wrong side of the ledger, but then had a couple of bonus bets at Panola on Sunday, which turned things around. So subscribers.
3 winners at Panola.
Yeah, so subscribers to the new Adelaide service, just be reminded there will be a couple of sort of freebies and bets thrown out, sent across aside from the Saturday, so it's not just a Saturday service as such, but it's a set that's starting to build and will continue to build profit as we get deeper into some of the bigger races in Adelaide, because we've got the Goodwood and SA Oaks and some nice races like that coming up very shortly, SA Derby, so stay tuned for more from Aaron Barbie in the next couple of weeks. Moving on to race 7, and this is a pretty competitive 1500 metre race. We've got His Majesty coming back from the Provincial Championships final, 320. Hyde Midnight, who was a good winner last start, at 480. And then behind that, you've got Man of Choice 9, Dragonflyer 11. Farolitos, sorry, they're at $8.
Yeah, it's a bit bog standard this race. Certainly His Majesty is travelling very well this preparation. It looks a race where there's enough speed. Himalaya Dreams drawn out wide. High Midnight adopted front-running tactics with gusto first up, but he's now drawn 1. Has been back to the trial since, but may make a play along the inside for the lead. Candelaro I seem to see has got a stable change. Farolitos would like to race on speed. Supreme Warrior usually races on speed. And then you've got Man of Choice and Dragonflyer out drawn out wide, who would like to take up forward positions. So there's certainly first half dozen in this race will will ensure an even tempo.
Yeah, I thought Faralitos was interesting because it was a very disappointing run first up. James Innes Jr. went forward from a wide gate.
Very low expectations, I suggest.
What's that?
The stable had very low expectations.
On that day. And then it's had, 6 weeks between runs, back to the trials, taken the blinkers off, ridden it quiet in a trial, and let it really attack the line quite strongly. And I was prepared to have something on it at big odds in the benchmark 100 last week, the last race at Randwick, just on the back of that trial. And now that it's landed in this race with McDonald on, I would have liked to have seen it drawn.
Maybe not. If they're going to ride it quiet, I think.
But that's what is he the type of horse that can ride quiet? I know they did it in the trial with no blinkers, but every other sort of run when he's been up in distance, he's sort of gone forward up outside leader at a mile.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I just think he's at $8. He's a horse that will definitely improve with McDonald on second up, going to a 1500 off a good trial. So I can see at $8. I thought
a very good suggestion.
I can see him being some sort of a play here. Candelara was the other that I was quite intrigued about. 2 trials have been solid. She did place in an Oaks behind Gust of Wind and Winks. That form's since been quite strong. She may have lost her way a little bit towards the end of her last preparation, but change of environment, change of stable, drawn soft here to get a good run. I didn't think she was entitled to be $21.
Yeah, she's an interesting runner in this race. I think that High Midnight's a touch vulnerable tomorrow. The way he controlled his race, he doesn't look to run this the same way. Spider Coda is an improver with D Moore off tomorrow. Faralitos, you've mentioned. His Majesty is a good chance, but is well found.
Certainly.
And certainly Man of Choice could be expected to improve back from 2000 with a tough run against his own age there. So back against the older horses here, he could be expected to improve. It's an interesting sort of middle range race, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I tend to agree with the High Midnight that it was almost like a surprise. He got away with it, and they almost let him get away with it there first up. But I can't see him getting the same control of a race here at virtually against the same opposition. They're not going to let him go and say, "Oh well, you got away with it last time. We're not going to do it again." So I thought he was very much vulnerable at $4.80.
Sure.
Moving to race number 8, and here we have Well Hardly Ever for James McDonald and Clary Connors, $4. Heady Heights at $5, Paint at $6.50, Rockalicious at $8. Now this is a $13.50. And then we've also got Z Fast at $7. They look to be the main chances in the market.
Yeah, another sort of bog standard race. But yet again, good size field and plenty of runners to go forward. So just checking my map here because I've just lost my way. So Paint will be in the van. Night Rocker likes to be there. Nat King Sue has been ridden well forward in his last couple with improved results. Rockalicious Huey will be looking for an on-pace trail here. And Beachhead for his new stable could be sealed forward from a wide gate. I'm expecting Lucky News to be reserved for Tamworth on Sunday. So Well Hardly Ever sort of ends up finding a midfield position. Will perhaps need to sort of get away from the rails, but probably smokes his pipe in the perfect spot. Where do you want to go here?
No, I was looking to get away from the main part of the market. I wasn't interested in the Well Hardly Evers. I wasn't really interested in the Heady Heightses. I wasn't really interested in the Paint. Z Fast, they just, for $4 or $5 chances, I can see plenty of things where they can go wrong in this race. And
all right,
purely on a
BZ Smoky coming.
Yeah, purely on a price perspective, I thought Bring Luck was big odds at 20-1 plus. Yeah. Now this horse is a stakes winner, albeit it wasn't a stakes race. It was a Saturday race, but it was an open handicap against Sir John Hawkwood, Villanova, and although it was on a heavy track and he did have the weight advantage. I thought it was quite dominant that day. Yes, it was at 1900 metres. This 1350 is a lot shorter, but its recent trial where it hit the line, smoked the line at Warwick Farm, which suggests that, to me, the horse is flying. Looks to get back from an awkward barrier, but that's its racing pattern.
Yeah, it's a last man standing.
And I looked back through its form, and there was a run there at Gosford back on the 15th of October last year where Kangaroo won, Heady Heights was second, and it was charging through the line into third. That was at 1200 metres. This is 1350. So when you've got Heady Heights, who's a $5 chance in this race, you're getting upwards of 20 to 1 plus. I was in a race that I didn't really get a strong handle on the horses at the top of the market. He looked something that I could have a small play at it.
That's a good suggestion, Brent. I like that.
And
it's an even sort of race where I went to Well Hardly Ever at $6. He's well short of that, and finding Well Hardly Ever means you've got to find Z Fast. Blah 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 blah. Rockalicious, I may have small interest on it. Third up here with Bowman on board.
Yeah, I tend to agree. She looked very soft first up. I fell into her second up at Warwick Farm, and she raced well below my expectation, but that would not surprise me to think now that she's had those 2 grounding runs, she could hit her peak.
Yeah, well, she was sort of in the middle of the road there for Rory Hutchins, just, an 11-day backup. Bowman on board, third up.
Home track, significant more prize money for the same rating race. I'm always a little bit wary of that where you have horses who look to be Saturday class, they go back to a Wednesday race worth half the money for the same rating, and then they get the opportunity in a race worth double the money. If you're going to be screwed down for something, you're going to be screwed down for where the money is, and that is where it is on Saturday.
There's a BZ Pearl.
It is something that I do take notice of. The last race looks to be a fast run, 1100.
Sure does.
Benchmark 85. Where do you see the speed here? I had it a plenty.
Well, Freeze the Charges is a desperate leader, so you'd have to say that she'll take it up. Prince Famous has been famous for leading, but with Huey on board, a wind operation and a tongue tie on, I'd suggest he'd be looking for one out, one back, and he may get that with Glenborn Dame, who hasn't been seen in Sydney for a long time, perhaps being forced into the role of outside lead here, or chasing Freeze the Charges. Our Renaissance won't be far away. Miss Tenpins likes to be on the speed. Shadow Force is a wild card from the deep to be pressing on. And I'm not sure how they intend to ride Allard, but maybe conservatively given the rider and the drop in distance. But certainly Freeze the Charges will take no prisoners here, and that you can be on back markers with some confidence.
Yeah, I haven't landed on a favourite sort of all day, but this is the one that I want to be on, Mogador. It looks the 3-year-old with carnival class ability. Middle of the line draw, McDonald on fresh back to Sydney after one run in Melbourne where it had excuses, I thought, at Caulfield off an awkward gate, got back in a race that was won by Sand around the lane, wasn't beaten too far there. You go back through its spring runs, 5th in a Group 1 Coolmore Classic, not beaten far behind Keen Array. These horses have been sort of competitive in Oakley plates. Looks very, very well placed to me in a benchmark 85.
Yes, well, also when you consider the fact that his 3 away runs have all been at 1200, and now he gets back to 1100, which seems the right trip.
It just seems a stalk, good speed. And we saw it the day that he won at Rose Hill, where he beat Karmasite and Dark Steel. Yeah. He showed an exceptional turn of foot.
Yeah, this is his race, and he's easy to like. I'd suggest that Palazzo Publico is a horse that's well set up and will run well, but she's going to have to hold him off, and it might be a difficult job.
I thought the one that might close late could be 50 Shades of Grey, because drawn alongside Mogador, I'd imagine Jason Collett's plan would be just get on the back of James McDonald, follow him wherever he goes, and hope to get the drag into the race. And if that's the case, we've seen her be effective at 1100 metres at Rose Hill off a similar setup to this.
So trialled again since her duck egg at Doomben. She's a Rose Hill 1100 metre mare.
Anything else to add for the day?
Well, I've got plenty on tomorrow. Obviously, there's only 7 races at Kembla, thank God, but Kembla's been humming for me lately. So Rose Hill and Kembla tomorrow, and then Monday, Randwick and Gosford.
Yeah, certainly is plenty on.
It's a bumper weekend. So Saturday and Monday there'll be a lot lot to get across and a lot to get your teeth into. Although I'm expecting Monday to be dense and fertile. So certainly a good-looking program at Rosehill tomorrow, and plenty of racing through the weekend. And keep your eye out for my stuff all the way through.
Plenty of sets up on the Punters Show. As we mentioned, the Fletcher Files have been going well. Johnny Walter's been on fire of late.
Man, you can't keep him down.
The Melbourne sets with Darren Potter have been very strong, and also now Adelaide with Aaron Barbie. And not to forget John McLeod at the Sunshine Coast tomorrow, because we have 4 stakes races, and there's a good quality card as we build into the Queensland Carnival. So plenty there to sink your teeth into the Punters Show. Thank you.